All right, that was wonderful. Congratulations, Jen. Yeah, like my colleagues before me, I just want to start by giving a personal note of gratitude to everybody that's in the room, all of the educators, for the generosity of your spirit and the depths of your energy and the patience that you give our children every day. For that matter, our parents also every day. Thank you all for what you do. Thank you for your service. And now it's a real honor to recognize an educator who hasn't just taught music at Brookline High School, but taught music at Brookline High School for nearly 3 decades. She's not just done that, though. She's transformed what a music program can be. When Carolyn Castellano arrived at BHS in 1996, the program was small. Today, it's a nationally recognized, award-winning, a true powerhouse of a program. But if you ask anyone who knows her, and as I've gotten to know her through this process, I can promise from her perspective, that's not the story. The story is the students. One of her colleagues, many of her colleagues call her a visionary. One of them said it this way, and they put it perfectly. Carolyn reimagined what a high school music program could be, building something that affects both tradition and the world that our students is stepping into. But the real measure of a teacher is always the students. And one of them said, she doesn't just teach us how to play music, she helps us to find our voice in it. That's rare, and isn't that the whole ballgame? Carolyn hasn't built a program where students follow. She's built one where they lead, where they create, and where they take ownership of their art. She's turned music into something bigger than performance. It's about community, it's identity, and it's belonging. Carolyn, for your vision, your energy, and the countless lives you shaped along the way, thank you. It's my honor to present you with this award. And now it's my pleasure to turn it over and introduce her colleague and her supervisor, a true champion of the arts himself, Kenny Kozel.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's truly a privilege to introduce this year's BHS Caverly Award recipient, music teacher extraordinaire, Carolyn Castellano. I first learned about Carolyn nearly 20 years ago, shortly before I began teaching at Brookline High School. I was meeting with the legendary musician and educator Rand Blake, and when he heard I was going to be working at BHS, he gave me a very clear directive. When you get there, the first thing you need to do is meet Carolyn Castellano. She's amazing. I soon found my way to the BHS band room where Carolyn was exactly where you would expect her to be, completely immersed in student work, offering her trademark, highly specific feedback. She didn't have much time for me at that first meeting because students always come first for Carolyn. But over time, that introduction turned into a close professional partnership and a friendship that now spans nearly 2 decades. As I've reflected on that moment over the years, I've come to realize that Rand Blake's instinct about Carolyn wasn't just about her being a great teacher. It was about something deeper, vision. Rand Blake helped found an entirely new approach to music at New England Conservatory, bringing together jazz, classical, and global traditions in response to a changing musical world. And in that same spirit, Carolyn reimagined what a high school music program could be. When she began teaching at Brookline High School in 1996, the program was small and struggling. In fact, she came in after something we might find hard to imagine nowadays, budget cuts that decimate the public school of Brookline's music programs. Ironic that today is the day we hopefully ensure that history does not repeat itself. What exists now at BHS is something entirely different, a nationally recognized, award-winning instrumental and digital music program that reflects not only musical tradition, but the evolving creative lives of students. Carolyn didn't follow changes to the field of music education. She helped lead them. She founded Brookline High School's digital music program long before programs like that were common. Today, they're everywhere. When she created hers, they were virtually unheard of. She expanded the idea of what a jazz ensemble could be, creating the Jazz Rock Ensemble, which more recently evolved into today's Jazz Rock Hip Hop Ensemble, recognizing that if we want students to engage deeply, the music has to connect with what they're actually listening to and creating. And of course, she created the BHS Music Collective. That name matters because this is not a top-down teacher-directed group. It's a student-driven collaborative space where young musicians learn to lead, to arrange, to critique, and to take ownership of their work. And because of that, students leave not only as stronger musicians, but as more confident, thoughtful, and independent people, regardless of where their future college studies and career choices will take them. As I read through the nomination letters, that impact came through again and again. Students wrote things like, "I wouldn't be the musician I am today without her." Another shared, "She didn't just teach me music, she gave me a place to belong." And one wrote something I keep thinking about. "When I want to play well, I think about what Carolyn would say about what she's hearing." That's a remarkable kind of influence, when a teacher's voice becomes part of a student's inner voice long after they've left the classroom. None of this happens without high expectations. Let's be honest, Carolyn can be tough. She expects punctuality, preparation, and integrity. Students learn quickly that almost on time is not the same thing as being on time. One colleague who co-taught a class with her for many years even joked that working with Carolyn means finding yourself running down the hallway just to avoid being even a few seconds late. What came through most clearly is that students don't just accept those expectations. They embrace them because they know they are being taken seriously. They know she sees their potential, and she's not going to let them settle for less. As one colleague put it, she is direct and no nonsense, and at the same time, deeply compassionate. And then there's the sheer scale of her commitment. Carolyn teaches more students than anyone else in the building. She's always the first to arrive in the morning and regularly the last to leave. Whether she's directing the musical's pit band late into the night, running her famous open mics, or organizing major performances or trips, she's building the kinds of traditions that students carry with them for years and that define Brookline High School. One colleague described following her around for a morning, writing, "Essentially, if you want to hit your step count for the day, just try to keep up with Carolyn. She's constantly moving, constantly checking in, constantly making sure every student is seen and supported." And somehow, within all of that, she creates spaces that are full of joy and belonging, places where students feel challenged, connected, and proud of what they're building together. As I think of what makes all of this work, what makes Carolyn who she is as an educator, is something a bit deeper. At the start of the school year in the Performing Arts Department, we were doing a reflection exercise, thinking about who we are as teachers, learners, and people. And Carolyn said, very matter of fact, "I'm a pistachio." We all looked at her curiously, trying to figure out what she meant. And she said, "I'm tough on the outside, but if you take the time to get to know what's inside, I'm really sweet." Immediately, everyone in the room nodded, because that's exactly who she is. There's a level of self-awareness and authenticity in that statement that her students experience every single day. Carolyn Castellano is a visionary educator, a relentless advocate for her students, a builder of community, someone who has shaped the lives of countless young people in ways that will last far beyond high school, and yes, a bit of a pistachio. It's my honor to introduce the 2026 Caverly Award winner, Carolyn Castellano.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you so much. Just give me 1 second. I have to set this up because I'm a musician, so I have to have some music involved, so just give me 1 second. I just want to make sure this is working. You can stand up and stretch now, though. I'm sure you want to. Come on, let's go, let's do it. All right, let's just see if this is on. Oh, yeah, it's working. Okay, we're good to go now. All right. Thank you so much. A couple of weeks ago, when I was listening to the Telling Your Stories at the Day of Dialogue Assembly, I was listening and I was thinking, there is no way I would ever want to tell my story. I don't like talking about myself. And, I just think my story is just kind of ordinary. But I guess the universe, the week later, was like, when I got this award, it was like, sorry, Carolyn, it's your turn. So I was like, I'm going to try. So here it goes. I'll be doing the majority of my thank yous at the end. But I would like to start by recognizing that I wouldn't be up here without the support of my family. My mom, Mary, who's here up from Florida. Thank you. Joanne, who is here, very supportive of me. My son, Sam, who unfortunately is not here, but he is the best ever, and he is my teaching compass for these days. He's just an incredible influence on me and how I go about teaching. So he's the best. Thank you, Sam. And thank you to the Brookline Education Foundation for this incredible, humbling honor and for all you do for teachers and staff to continue to allow them to nurture their curiosity and even replenish themselves through restoration. It's important work that you do, and it's greatly appreciated by everyone. I was hired as a .4 position by Ian Ryrie, the performing art, by the way, a 1991 Caverly Award winner. He was the performing arts coordinator at the time. He was brilliant, sarcastic, witty, and supportive, and those are the traits that a native New Yorker like myself is like, yeah, let's bring it on. He was great. That was 1996. There was no instrumental music program at the high school. I believe it was cut in the 80s, but let's go, Brookline parents. You organized, and you got the program going again. So I started with 2 classes, a concert band, a creative music class, and an after-school jazz club. Let's hope we pass the override to keep instrumental music in the elementary schools today. Because I think what you're going to hear from my story today is that once you cut programs, it takes quite a bit of time to bring them back. In the 1970s, music was super important in my house and was being played. My mom loved Broadway musicals, and of course, we had many obligatory Sinatra albums because we were Italian American. I listened to a lot of Springsteen, of course, and Joni Mitchell, and I even got to see the Ramones live way back in the day. But what I really liked was jazz, and I found this radio station, WBGO 88.3 in Newark, and I would listen to that station in the basement of my house with some pencils to play along. And the thing about jazz is improvisation, of course. And improvisation, it's a conversation, it's a collaboration, sometimes it's a reaction, and the best part is you never have to play the song twice the same way. So when I arrived to teach my first creative music class, there really wasn't any curriculum. So I asked the students, well, what do you want to do? And that was the beginning of like my improvisational approach to teaching, listening to the student and then creating with them. At the time, they wanted to write chorales, if you can believe that. I wanted to share my love of digital music at the time, and I would bring in my old iMac G3. I don't know if you remember these computers. They were very bulky to carry around, and I would bring it back into the classroom with me. Those early years at Brookline High School were very different. There was no teachers, mentoring teachers program. And since I was only .4, I wasn't at the high school all the time because I had other jobs. My classroom was also not next to anyone. It was in the old MLK room, which is now the white box. And the Welland door entrance, door 19, anyone know that door? That's a magical door. In the beginning, it had a handle. Then it disappeared. and now it has a handle again. That's just a little inside joke for those of you that know that door. Thank you. I had to put that in there, sorry. But also in 1996, it was also a hangout for a lot of, let's just say, not very well-behaved students. So, yeah, that was some good times. Being part-time, I felt alone at times, but I did find some veteran teachers to help me at the time. George Mitchell, Henry Orelli, Madeline Corcoran would provide me some support. We'd often have picnic lunches on the first floor math hallway when those picnic tables first arrived. And I would bring, now I'm gonna mention this name twice, and here's the first time. I would bring my George Foreman grill down there, and we would make grilled cheese sandwiches, and some other math department people would come out. It was really fun times. But despite the challenges, I was determined to build a successful program. And my determination and independence come from my very supportive parents, Joe and Mary. My dad worked in the Maine post office in New York City, and my mom was a legal secretary for the New York State Court of Claims in Tower 2, the Twin Towers, 84th floor. They allowed me to pursue things that, at the time, not many girls my age were doing. You know, remember, I'm old. For example, when I wanted to play drums, they were like, sure, no problem, you could take lessons. When I wanted to go to school as far away from New York City as possible, but still remain in the state in Plattsburgh to study environmental science and biology, they were like, sure, go ahead, no problem. When, of course, the most important thing they allowed me to do is remain a Mets fan all my life with that you gotta believe attitude, even though when you watch the games, it's more like, I just can't believe this, especially these days right now. My parents allowed me the independence to take opportunities and see where they would go. And that independence led me to be a lifeguard on Lake Champlain, run a recycling center, work in a mailing house, be a waitress, work on Wall Street as a rater and coder in an insurance company for I think a total of 4 days. I hated that job. Then I went off to the Berklee College of Music in the early 80s to study jazz performance. I then graduated, had gigs all over on drums, worked at Tower Records, and then I also worked in record distribution. I was very busy improvising with my life and work and wondering where my next adventure would be. I really didn't plan on going into education, but somehow I went back to school and got my teaching license. I taught a prince, one of King Hussein's sons. And here's the second time. I taught one of George Foreman's 5 George Foreman sons. And his name was Monk, actually. That was his nickname. And then I was lucky enough after all that to end up at Brookline High School. But you know, at that time I was already in my early 30s. Now, over time, my program grew, and I'd like to call this period my action figure phase. Now, I don't think of myself as an action figure, but my students did from 1996 to 2000, and they gave me the Carolyn Castellano Bandmaster action figure, complete with her keys, drumsticks, and baton. I still have it. So, I mean, it's old, so the thing fell off, but by 2001, a renovation happened, and from the combination of Ian championing my cause, the support of parents and the school committee and Headmaster Weintraub, I was able to add classes, a jazz rock ensemble, digital music production, my music collective class, which was then a jazz band and we were also able to advocate for the Z block, which allows large ensembles and other classes to meet. Concert band at the time was 60 members, but now it runs between 75 to 80 members during Z Block. I also got a brand new band room. That was 2001. So Hal, can we have another new band room? So has anyone ever been to the band room? Well, okay, because if you haven't, you just go down this hall, then take a left, then down the ramp and to the right. And when you walk in, the first thing you'll see is a big old red shark. And that was a gift from the class of 2005, kind of a nod to the old SNL skit, Land Shark. So we call it Band Shark. Over time, it's become our mascot, and you'll see it on our T-shirts and on posters in the band room. Years ago, two students, Eli Husak, known professionally as Eli Paperboy Reed, he actually has a new single out today, and Eli Kessler, both professional musicians today, class of 2001, they convinced me we needed couches to be more comfortable in the band room. So we drove around the corner in a pickup truck and picked up some old, flowery crate and barrel couches in a parent's basement. And these couches became a hangout in the band room. And students knew they can come and take a nap or just be with friends. And quite often, there were always students in there, even when I'm teaching other classes, they would just come and relax. There's also a lot that happens in the band room that people don't always see. For example, there we have monthly ice cream for breakfast for concert band. Once a month, you can come by. We have ice cream Sundays. I also host monthly open mics. And then we have Elf Day. Elf Day actually started by accident one year after the music department's annual winter concert. I played the movie Elf just for fun, and the next year students wanted to play it again, and they brought candy. Then some students from my digital music production class brought in spaghetti and maple syrup. And then it finally evolved to this, now it's a full-day marathon, Elf from 8 a.m. through F block, where we have tons of cookies, cake, bacon, and we have candy cane, candy corn, maple syrup. This year, I actually almost didn't do Elf Day. I thought it maybe had run its course, but then a couple of students that I wouldn't even expect to care that I would have Elf Day, they started asking me, so when's Elf Day? Are you doing it? Very sincerely, please do Elf Day, Carolyn, please. So I did it, and the next day they were so grateful. They sent me these lovely letters, and a couple of alum who go to college nearby, they actually came by so they could have their annual spaghetti and maple syrup. These little things we do to create spaces for students to feel seen and feel like they belong are the most important things we can do. I'm sure that we all do that in our own ways, sometimes without even realizing it. But those are the moments that matter most. But sometimes we forget about those moments when we are in the day-to-day of instruction. And a student might respond, "You think I understand that crap you're teaching?" That was a response once, and he did understand it after the rest of the class. He was having a rough day. It was awesome. When you're teaching the arts, you're not just teaching technical skills and concepts. You're teaching the students to understand how to translate their imagination into something tangible. This process sometimes forces them to embrace uncertainty. And for digital music production, that is creating a musical composition from notes, theory, and digital music tool concepts. And for the ensemble classes, such as concert band, that is committing to practicing. Playing a musical instrument enables a student to imagine what they want to sound like, then set their own goals to work towards that sound. But in the meantime, as they're working through the process, make it work with the skills they have and not be afraid to sound bad, kind of like making it till you can make it. I tell them often that, don't be afraid to be bad before you're good. You have to know that you're bad, but that it's important to take the risk and not be afraid of the risk of failure. So with failure in mind, I've been thinking a lot about teacher heaven. And now you're wondering what teacher heaven is. Well, when you're teaching and everyone's engaged, trying their best, they mess up and they don't care, they ask questions. It's so great. You don't have to give grades. They don't want grades. It's just amazing. Well, I described that to one of my classes a couple of weeks ago, and they all looked at me and smirked. And they thought I saw teacher heaven on social media, and I'm like, no. I said, no, that's what I dream about. In fact, I was thinking of having some T-shirts made that say, "I am a teacher. and I teach in a classroom called Teacher Heaven. So it's like, the other day a student was turning in a late assignment, and they said, "Hey, Carolyn, it's Teacher Heaven." And I looked at her, and I'm like, "No, Teacher Heaven is if you turned it in on time." But that's all good. So, Music Collective is definitely my Teacher Heaven. It's an advanced group of students that are deeply invested in music, and it's even been featured in Music Education Journal for highlighting the success and importance of the collaborative classroom. Of course, this ensemble teaches teamwork, getting everyone to buy in, and working together towards a common goal. It's accomplished by students arranging their own songs and then learning how to articulate their ideas using like the jazz pedagogy, but with a mix of rock and roll in there too. This ensemble has also given me the chance to grow as a musician and an educator. I've taken on more of a coaching role, stepping in when needed, but ultimately, I'm part of the group too. I think they really appreciate my no-nonsense, real approach, and we have really built a solid sense of trust and respect with one another. I also work as a travel guide with this group. Every other year, we travel, and I've been lucky since 2001 to be on 9 trips, from Memphis all the way to Iceland. On the trips, we play community service concerts and participate in workshops from local professionals and musicians. Plus, wherever we go, former students are always just a call away, ready to visit and offer help. It's such a rewarding feeling to know that the relationships we build go beyond the classroom. Last year in Amsterdam, Nikki Schwartz, class of 2005, bassist for the Royal Concertgebouw Orchestra, was happy to give us our own personal tour of the Royal Concertgebouw Hall. And then Ian Mitchell, class of 2018, came by and was talking about what it's like to go to school in the Netherlands with the students as well. As you know, teenagers never fail to provide some great memories on this trip. Last year, a bunch of students woke up and they had all these red welts all over their arms. And I was like, what the? So I guess, if you've been to Europe, they don't really like screens for some reason. And all these mosquitoes came in their room, and they kept getting eaten alive. Like every night they'd wake up and we were like buying bug sprays and everything to try to get rid of it. In fact, the first night I heard a lot of cooing and wings flapping, and I thought it was outside, but when I opened the windows up the next morning, I noticed that on my windowsill there was a bunch of bird poo. So they were actually in the room hanging out with me at night. It was great. So like, one student even lost his passport on the way home. Thank God we were at Logan, but we did have to be detained behind some really thick plexiglass until it was all sorted out. We had a really good laugh about it. So if you're going on an international trip, leaders, please make sure you have those photocopied hard copies of the passports, because they will help. Moments like these may be a bit chaotic, but they're the funny memories that will always stay with us and bring us closer to our students. I'd like to circle back to improvisation. Remember, in improvisation, you have to be present, you have to listen, react, and have a conversation in the moment. I hope my classes and my honest feedback help students become aware of where they are right now, learning to be in the moment, accept where they are, and improvise through life, even when it's most challenging, to keep moving forward and truly enjoy it. Thank you. But wait a second, guys. I got to give my thank yous. Here we go. You ready? Here we go. First off, salute to the boss, that's Kenny Kozel, advocate for the arts. Yeah, he holds that flame, but more than a leader, my friend, my day one name. And Mike Driscoll, yeah, that's my left-hand man, wrangling vocalists to singing jam. Mark Vanderzee, that's a baseball bloodline. Fellow Aries Fire, yeah, the stars align. Nina Bishop, orchestra queen. She got 4 strings, she flyers up. Adagio Tenas, king. Christina Monaco, steady and strong. She got the shell up for me with just one arm. And Elena Mamonis, late nights, music rehearsed. Those marathon sessions, yeah. Chaos in verse. And Maya Hernandez, oysters and steak. You small girl, but you got what it takes. Dylan Zobel, baseball fanatic approved. And Sonia always holding it down, so cool to the the retired PA, legends in the lore. Built the stage we're standing on, opened every door. Mary Mastandrea, real talk, you showed up strong. Helped me through the hard days when things felt long. Christian Polas, my partner through musical Stacked. Yeah, we handled that. And my visual arts fam, Liz Brennan in the mix, Eric Latimer, elective teacher, politics, taking joys and struggles, creative life we choose, finding beauty in the chaos, the teacher blues, and my underground crew. Yeah, you know who you are. No need for names. We all just want to survive. Anthony, respect, and the admins and staff too, because it takes a whole village just to do what we do. Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay. Thank you. Oh, okay. That's awesome. Next.
Okay. Alrighty then. Thank you all for coming. Carolyn and Jen, you did not disappoint. Thank you all for coming. This concludes our Celebrating Teachers. And I could not have been more proud to call myself a Brookline Public School educator. Please enjoy snacks in the back, and Carolyn and Jen will do this again next week at school committee meeting, the May 13th. It's a Wednesday night. So join us again. Let's see what Carolyn has for them next week.